All right, what's going on, y'all? Summer Del Piso back once again. So we're on the way to another bike dock, city bike dock, just to collect an e-bike, because those are much easier to use and less taxing on our legs. Not like we haven't bad legs or anything, but where I'd rather not do work, I won't do work. That's what I'm on. So currently I'm in the hood with huge quotation marks, because there's not even a semblance of the hood in this place. I'm not gonna lie. I think we gotta walk down another block or two. So I'm going to talk to you guys about semen retention once again. What better way to talk about semen retention than to have a book, not necessarily dedicated to it, but one chapter of this book of short stories that is immensely dedicated to the practice of semen retention by one of my favorite authors, by the way, of all time, my surrogate father, Aldous Huxley. I don't know if you guys know who he is. You should, just because the two most popular dystopian novels of our time, he wrote one of them. So there's 1984, George Orwell. The second one being Brave New World. And ironically, in both stories, those dystopias were meant to be utopias. Imagine that. I didn't start off with Brave New World, as most people usually would. Started off with Chrome Yellow, his first book. Some book about a whole bunch of writers at a writer's retreat, and one writer I think loved another writer, but that writer liked some other guy. It as well have been like some novel from contemporary times, but it was pretty good. It was like one of those Ermaness books that basically had all these different characters, even though they had these different occupations. They all spoke the same, as if they were just like mediums for the author's ideology. We managed to get a hold of one of the e-bikes after getting a little sidetracked. Thankfully, the bike depot was on the same block as that we got lost, quote unquote. So now we're on the move. I have no idea where I'm gonna go this time, but we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna turn on a flatbush here. Where's he going? So yeah, this thing only serves as a vehicle for your mental state. I guess we can go to the Lower East Side, right? Sounds like a good idea. So I'm closing in on Barclays Center. We are in the perpendicular crossroad of Atlantic and Flatbush. Well, we were at least. So currently we're on the underside of Manhattan Bridge, and we're just sort of waiting. We're waiting to cross. We're trying to find a spot to record, and we're gonna move on from there. Can we even cross? Oh, yes, we can. I think we got to go up this way. What's going on once again, YouTube? This is Summer Del Piso, back once again, looking out into Williamsburg from Manhattan. And anyway, I wanted to talk about the bad side of semen retention. But before we get into the bad side, I wanted to talk about that Aldous Huxley book that I was raving about on the way over here, which is Adonis and the Alphabet. I bought this book about 6 years ago in Greenwich, London, South London. I read it twice. I read it twice or three times. The last chapter tends to talk about semen retention. Skim through it very quickly. Well, the first sentence here is, every civilization is, among other things, an arrangement for domesticating the passions and setting them to do useful work. what does that mean, right? Domesticating the passions. I said something earlier in another video. I was talking about setting austerity measures on the self. I didn't really elaborate because I'm assuming that you guys know what that means. But austerity measures is almost like what Aldous says in the first sentence here, domestication. Not exact, because domesticating, it sort of has a tinge of acquiescing attached to it, right? Austerity measures ultimately closes off unnecessary channels, right, of the self. You're not expending energy on doing silly stuff, right? You're not being aggressive, right? Because you realize that there's no need to be aggressive, right? You sort of cut off those channels, so that flow of energy, it's only being directed towards hopefully a good and solid purpose. So boom, first sentence, this guy's talking about domestication, right? Or how society is sort of built in order for everyone to sort of fit into it. I'm not really a fan of fitting into a society. The fact that I have to sort of domesticate myself in order to fit in and be accepted, the 2 or 3 times that I've read this, it was at completely different intervals. 6 years ago, when I picked up this book in London, I read it for the first time. The second time, it was 2 or 3 years after that point. The third time, 2 years after that point. So now, you know, I'm at a different mental state, and it's crazy. The first sentence, I thought it was talking about semen retention, but it is. I promise you. I know it gets better. He then says the domestication of sex presents a problem. Sorry. You see, I spoke a little too quickly. Every single next interval by which I read Aldous Huxley once again, I always say that I've outlived him. I'm better. I don't need to listen to what he has to say because I've done this. I experienced much bigger and better things. But he has reminded me once again that Aldous Huxley is the winner. Got a couple examples here. For one, basically he talks about someone named Robert Dale Owen, someone that advocated for coitus interruptus, which is basically, as we all know, it's edging. You guys just have sex. You don't necessarily come at all. Rather, you remove yourself from your partner. You are just at a state of sexual discomfort, right? So this guy says, beginning in 1844, I experimented on the idea that the amative function of the sexual organs could be separated from the propagative, right? And found that the self-control it required is not difficult, but also that his enjoyment was increased. What this guy is talking about is how he decided to experiment. Instead of the coitus interruptus that this guy was on about, he decided to refrain from sex completely and just decided to live his life. And he realized that there was a change coming about in his life where maybe his enjoyment, bliss, that's another positive mental effect of semen retention. There's a bliss that you feel. However, we're not here to talk about the good and positive things. We're here to talk about the bad things, right? The moment you cross into that door, the threshold, right? And you enter the domain that is of semen retention, it is very, very difficult to turn back. In fact, I think it's almost impossible to turn back because you have conditioned, it's almost like a traumatic state that you're putting the body through, and where it cannot turn back. It can't go back to the way things were. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? In terms of halting your advancement. What I want to say ultimately is when you're beginning the practice of semen retention, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you truly want, right? I'm gonna say this again. When you begin this practice, you have to ask yourself, what is it you truly want? What is it you truly want to gain through this practice? This is not something that you could play around with, right? You just do it, and for a little while, you attract women or whatever, and or you attract favorable circumstances, and you could just leave it alone. When you begin this practice, you have to go for minimum 2-3 months. You then start to experience this change, this complete metamorphosis in your mind state. This world seeks to destroy you. This is the long, the tall, the short. You come into this world without consent. You are drawn into this place. You're stuck in a fleshly vessel, and you have no choice but to go through the vicissitudes of fate, right? the gateways of life, and all the initiations thereof. The initiation of getting used to your parents, right? The mother that gives you the nourishment. You have to get used to separating from the only thing that you viscerally connected to, and try to communicate with other kids that are going through the same traumatic experience. After that, you then go on and perhaps you get your first rejection. You get you receive your first F. You get embarrassed for the first time. You get bullied for the first time. These are all experiences, the cycles of initiation that we are forced to go through when you are stolen and taken to this place. And what makes a personality is how someone still operates in this society with those samskaras, because that's what they are. Samskara is a Hindu term, which is basically traumatic events that scar the soul. I'm just gonna say maybe samskaras of the psyche, because I'm a big believer of the soul not even being able to be touched, nor harmed, nor influenced. You go through all of these cycles of initiation. You advance, and in reality, you come to a point where you've grown up physically. You haven't really advanced. You haven't learned anything. You've only were conditioned to become like the rest, who have also been conditioned. This is the reality. And with the practice of semen retention, you start to see this, you understand it, you look at everything in a bird's eye view, you understand truth. It's almost like you are instantly downloaded with all of this information, this very complete, detailed ledger of individuals, the communication between individuals, the reasons thereof, and so on and so forth. And a switch is turned on. You will now be the rejected of society. This is the bad side of semen retention. It's a very powerful practice. You will start perceiving things on a different level. You start to feel indescribable bliss. Even learning things are going to be much more effective and efficient. But you will lose everything that you know, everything before, up to that point of semen retention. You will lose your friends. Trust me. I've lost many, and I'm continuing to lose friends day by day. The sucky thing about this journey is advancing. You're advancing incredibly rapidly. You'll start to understand that there are situations that you don't necessarily need to subject yourself to. And even if you find some validation, or you've given some justification to yourself as to why you should stay in some horrible situation, you realize that the reward is not worth the work that you're putting yourself through to do it. The juice ain't worth the squeeze, as you know the traditionalists will say. So you walk away. This is what this practice is about. In this practice, you tend to, the metamorphosis is incredibly rapid, it's incredibly strong. It's akin to the vacuum strength of a black hole. You then start to understand that your family members don't necessarily know what's good for you. Half the time, they're not necessarily on your side. Then you start to advance more in this practice, and you start to question the foundation of the belief systems of the world. Guys, I really want to tell you, the bad side of semen retention, let's get back on track. In addition to incredibly fast metamorphosis, which jerks you out of your experiences, your comfortable experiences that you're used to hanging out in and being around. It jerks you out of those experiences and throws you into new realities. You're going to lose a lot. I keep emphasizing this. You will lose friends. You will lose, for the ones that are married, the ones that have girlfriends, your friends will switch on you completely, like out of the blue. They'll be nice to you in person. They'll pretend to actually know what you're talking about and understand the passion and the emotions behind the things that you're saying. And when you go into a group of people, they have to show off. They have to fit in, because that's what it's all about. It's all about fitting in. Life is a society in a perpetual state of high school. You are always going to be the odd one out, the green apple, the black sheep, right? The ugly duckling. These are just the realities that you're gonna have to deal with. It's gonna be traumatic at first because everything you thought that your friend was, he wasn't. He or she wasn't. Everything you thought your significant other was, they weren't. You seek the truth, and that is going to disrupt your psyche. It's gonna disrupt your sense of self. Your reason to be, raison d'être, is shaken to its core. You realize that there is a call. There's gonna be a voice that's beckoning you to walk, to go, to keep advancing, to keep walking forward. And you're gonna realize that the others, your significant other, does not have this voice and will not hear this voice. It's just not possible. And you'll be put at a point of contention. You will have to make a decision. As cliche as it might sound, it is the same truths that Neo was presented with in the Matrix. You either take the blue pill, which is continuing your relationship with your significant other and staying in this world, right, where the rewards thereof are not beneficial. You're not gaining anything that's truly enriching. It's so easy. It's such a reflex to make a family. It's such a reflex to have a significant other and to indulge in lustful actions. It's easy, right? You can continue doing that, or on the other hand, the red pill. You practice semen retention, and you perceive things that you never thought possible, that you never previously imagined. That is the choice that you're presented with on this practice. I'll tell you from personal experience that I have been presented with this choice. I am very stubborn, right? I like to keep both my feet in opposing points in two different sides of the world. One, maybe there is something in me that seeks to be accepted by the world. Slowly but surely, that foot, however, is coming more and more up and suspended, just because, like I said, when you start this practice, it's a switch. You will never be accepted again in this world. That's it. There's no turning back. My left foot is in the world of advancing, seeing what I could bring, what I can channel through me, what I could prepare myself for, right? It's definitely a trip, I'll tell you that. We spoke about the bad things about semen retention, how you'll go through a metamorphosis of the soul, of the psyche, at an incredibly fast and accelerated pace. We also spoke about how your entire world will change. You will lose friends, you'll lose your significant other, you will lose, if you continue this practice, if you actually stay on the path, it is almost 100% definitive that you will lose your friends, you will lose your significant other, you will lose relationships with your family. I only could talk to you about this because I went through it. I've experienced all the bads, and I'm still experiencing it to this day. When you become a beacon, speaking about things that you're not supposed to talk about, such as things like semen retention, you start to see the world in reality for what it is, and it's pretty depressing. Not really. I mean, I do understand, or I have faith that good things will happen. If they don't, then it's only a fleshly experience, right? You sort of realize that the ups and downs of life with the semen retention practice, there are nothing really. You'll get embarrassed, right? People will turn on you, right? Maybe you'll even get hit. Maybe you'll even get killed. And it just really doesn't matter at all, because you understand that that's just the state of the world. That's just the reality of things. That's something that you'll need to accept the moment you begin this practice. If you're ready to begin your journey of semen retention, of unveiling the curtain, peering behind the curtain, and looking bird's eye view at the reality of things and looking at the blueprint, the grand design. Take up your goddamn cross and get ready for a ride, because you are going to be swept off your feet. Your eyes will be plucked out and renewed. Your heart, will that change? Will it become a little hard? Will you still be compassionate, understanding that reality doesn't necessarily respect you or like you? These are all powerful things to think about when you are beginning this journey, and as you are venturing through this journey. Continue the practice. Continue. Do not give up. As Lightning said, Lightning, Final Fantasy 13, we will never give up. And the moment they decided to pick on humanity, that was their mistake. So, with that being said, Sombra del Piso, gone, and I'll see you guys in the next one.